Skrmetta Show here on a Wednesday. Oh, baby, on a Wednesday. Feeling good, feeling fantastic right now. Feeling good, looking good, sounding good, the whole 9 yards. We have a show that is so packed, so stacked, it's downright erotic. Absolutely stacked show here on a Wednesday. Let me get my sheet of topics. Oh, we starting off strong. We're starting off with Colin Kaepernick. Promised y'all on Monday that Colin Kaepernick, my opinions on it would come today. They are here today. We're going to start the show off. Then we have Crayola, the crayon makers. For the first time in history, are eliminating one of the crayons in the 24 count box. We will guess which one it is. Also, a story that we predicted, whatever, not a big deal, kind of a big deal. We do that all the time. We say something, then about 2 weeks later, you hear it in the media, you hear your local hacks do it about 6 months later, and I'm sitting here going, guys, where you been? Where you been? The story is that transgenders in women's sports, so transgenders who are now women were previously men, in women's sports, for some reason, roll eyes to death, for some reason are dominating. And people are starting to say, maybe this wasn't a good idea. Then a Kentucky woman is suing the Kentucky State Police detective because she was wrongfully accused of a murder that she pled guilty to, did 6 years for, all because of a really, really weird reason. This is a Kentucky story that may be the most Kentucky story of all time. And then finally, or we don't know the order of these stories, but what would happen if every spider in the world turned on humans at the same time? I'll tell you. I'll give you that answer today on this show. Now let's not mess about. Let's not screw around. Okay? I'm feeling 10 out of 10 right now. So let's jump right into it. I don't have to tell y'all to go rate and review the show. I'm not going to waste time doing that. I'm not going to waste time saying, go to iTunes. Hit that 5-star rating. What else would you give it? 6 stars? Impossible. Deserved, but impossible. And leave a review. I'm not going to tell you to do that. You should do that anyways. Because then you would say, well, what happens if I rate it and review it? And hypothetically, if we were talking about this, I would say what it does is it boosts us up the rankings. So then I'm rubbing elbows with Joe Rogan. And all these people, all these big head honchos up in Hollywood, New York are going, who the hell is this guy jumping up the rankings? What's happening? And then those chumps down at your local radio studio, they get thrown out of the office. This show replaces it. They extend it. I don't go anywhere near the office. It stinks. I stay here in the lavish studio. Look at this place. Look at this place. If you can't see it, if you're listening on iTunes and you're not watching on YouTube, first of all, what are you doing? Second of all, do you not have a computer? Third of all, go buy a computer. And fourth of all, subscribe to my channel on YouTube. And then you can see the studio, the lavish studio. I got a $5,000 TV hanging on the wall right here. I got a picture of Shawn Michaels up in the corner. You think this brick wall, this whole wall of brick is cheap? Please. I'm staying in the studio. I send them the audio. They put it on your radio station. You can listen to it in the car, even though I know you Bluetooth this, so it's really irrelevant. But tell the world what you listen to. Rate and review the show. Hypothetically, if I was to mention it, which I won't. Let's get into the Colin Kaepernick thing. So Colin Kaepernick, we all know what he's done this year. We all know that he's knelt for the national anthem. We all know that he has a problem with America. We all know that he has a giant afro. We're not going to go into the background. We're just going to go into right now. So there's a few people, Richard Sherman, Spike Lee, a few other pundits, who believe that Colin Kaepernick is not on an NFL team because he's black and because he has a problem with America. And that's it. Not about his playing, not about any of that stuff. He would be on an NFL team if he didn't have an issue with America and if he stood for the national anthem. There's two ways to look at this story, right? There's that way, that he's being blackballed, it's unfair, he should be on a roster, all that stuff. Then there's the way of the guy that says this is the NFL. This is the National Football League. If he was good enough to be on a roster, he'd be on a roster. That's that side. So the question is, where do I end up on that thing? Man, I feel good. I just am feeling 10 out of 10 right now. I'm sitting here letting it rip, and I'm just feeling fantastic. I'll tell you where I come out on this. Do I believe that Colin Kaepernick could play in the NFL? Do I believe that he's a starting quarterback? That his caliber of play is consistent with starting quarterbacks in the NFL? Yes, I do. I do think so. I've actually been a big supporter of Colin Kaepernick throughout his entire career. I thought he was good coming out of Nevada. I thought he was great when the Niners made their Super Bowl run, when they were pretty decent, when Harbaugh was there. I thought he was really good. I understood he had some flaws. I understood that he was more of a mobile quarterback. He wanted to run. He was kind of quick to get out of the pocket. He made some throws harder for himself. But I never doubted the arm strength. I never doubted the athleticism. I never doubted any of that stuff. When Chip Kelly went to San Francisco, I thought it was a good move because Kaepernick, had Jim Tomsula, who was a defensive line coach before he became a head coach. So that's only going to stunt. If you go from Jim Harbaugh, who may be a top 5 coach in college and the NFL combined, you go from that to Jim Tomsula, there's going to be issues. There's going to be problems with the quarterback. On top of that, main targets leave. Anquan Bolden leaves. Michael Crabtree leaves. On the other side of the ball, Patrick Willis retires. I think he's doing like Silicon Valley stuff or something. Patrick, give me a call, brother. I got some money to give you. So there was some moving and shaking over there in Frisco, which is out of his control. Now Frisco starts to spiral downward. Last year they went like 2-14. They're the worst team in the league. They're terrible. Them and Cleveland are rotating between bad and worse. And Kaepernick was caught in that crossfire. Now, a few years ago, he signed a huge deal, okay, an enormous deal. And he believes he's worth double-digit millions. He thinks he's in that $10 to $15 million range. If someone was to get him right now, they'd probably have to pay him $9, $10, $11 million. And he wants to start. He wants to be a starting quarterback in the NFL. So this isn't a situation where he's not on a roster. He cannot be a third-string quarterback. He can't be a second-string quarterback for most teams. Because, one, you're bringing in a relatively high-profile quarterback, a guy who's been to Super Bowl, a guy who's won playoff games, a guy who was a starter. You bring him into a situation like Cincinnati, there's going to be some kind of quarterback controversy. He's not just going to be a sit-in-the-background kind of backup. This is a guy who, not too long ago, Ron Jaworski was saying could be the greatest quarterback to ever live. So it's a little bit unfair to say that he's not on any team because there's 32 teams. I would say max 6 teams make sense for Colin Kaepernick. Top of my head, he could start on the Jets. He could start on the Texans, the Broncos. He could, he started on Frisco, so but that doesn't count because they're not going to bring him back. They just let him go, so you can't count them. I don't know about Minnesota. He's on the same kind of level to me as a Sam Bradford. Chicago, he could probably go in there and make something happen, but they just made a huge deal for Mike Glennon, so they're out of it. They signed their guy, so they're out of the whole thing. You're looking at teams like Philadelphia. Is he better than Carson Wentz? Maybe, but they just spent a ton of draft picks on Carson Wentz, so they're out. The Rams, is he better than Jared Goff? Probably, but he's their number 1 pick. That they're out. So it isn't a 32-team situation. This is like a 5-team situation. And the Niners have been trying to move Kaepernick for a minute now. They've been trying to get rid of him or trade him. Around the draft every year, you hear about a potential trade for picks. Around the trade deadline, you hear about this kind of stuff. And there weren't suitors then, right? There wasn't a trade happening then. So now that they went 2-14 and he wasn't very good, there's not any suitors now. There's not suitors for a lot of players. Jay Cutler, there's no suitors for. There was no suitors for Tim Tebow after he lost his playoff game and his NFL career ended. So the first thing we have to really do here is establish what the actual question is. And we have to agree that this is not an NFL situation. This isn't a 32-team situation. Now that part's kind of out of it, we narrowed it down to these 5-6 teams. I believe that he's good enough to play. So the question is, why is he not on an NFL team? Mostly because, one, if you bring him in, you're going to have to commit to him being your starter. You're bringing him in with starter money. You're not going to pay a backup $10 million, $12 million. So you're bringing him in with starter money. So he's got to be a guy that fits your scheme. You've got to have a scheme that can handle this mobile quarterback, this runaround quarterback, can facilitate what he's doing. Because if you bring him in, you want to win, right? That's the whole point of the NFL. When you bring in political issues like this, it's always good to remember that the NFL is a game that multi-millionaires play and multi-billionaire owners spend hours and hours and hundreds of millions of dollars to get those millionaires to win the game. It's a kid's game. They play at a recess. So at the basic level, it's super simple, super simple. People want to win. And this is why I think that Colin Kaepernick is not being blackballed. The NFL we've seen it time and time again, it is a terrible place for morals and any kind of personal feeling or emotion to be, because it gets stomped on all the time. Greg Hardy, Ray Rice, all these people. You see domestic violence, you see drunk driving, you see drugs and alcohol, you see guns, you see all those kind of crimes get committed, and people get second chances. People get third chances. People get fourth chances. But if they are winners, and if they are really, really good, none of that stuff matters. If Greg Hardy wasn't really, really, really good, the Dallas Cowboys would not have signed Greg Hardy. I can promise you that. If you're really, really good, you can skate with a lot of stuff. If you're not really good, you can't. Colin Kaepernick, whether you agree with him or not, whether you're white or black, he is bringing baggage. He is bringing extra cameras. Just like Tim Tebow. They're bringing extra distraction. If you're a backup quarterback and you're bringing distraction, probably ain't going to work out because you're not good enough to be the starter. So I'm damn sure not bringing in a guy with distraction. That's a big reason people didn't bring in Tebow. It wasn't because he wasn't good enough. It was because that just in case he was good enough, they didn't want to have this constant quarterback conversation the whole season. That's the reason. You know, you bring him into, I'm trying to think of a team. You bring him into Philadelphia, okay? And let's say he stays on the whole year, this upcoming year. And Carson Wentz goes 0-5 the first 5 games. He's terrible. You don't think people are going to be calling for Tim Tebow? And then let's say Tebow comes in, plays pretty decent. Great. Now you have Tim Tebow, this guy who has this cult following. At that point, it transcends football. Now it's a distraction. Now it's a talking point. Now it's the press. Now it's all these questions. Now it's different. Kaepernick's the same way. But we're still not at the main point yet because we've now agreed that he's probably good enough to play in the NFL. He's definitely good enough to play in the NFL. He's probably good enough to start in the NFL for 4 or 5 teams. And we agree that he does have baggage. He does have some distraction. He does have something else than just football. And when you're looking for backup quarterbacks, the guy who's just a quiet guy, if Colin Kaepernick is rated 70 overall and a quiet guy is rated 65 overall with no distractions, they'll take the 65 overall to be the backup. That's how the NFL works. Now, if he's a starter, it changes. Now, here's my main thing. Here's my main thing that I'll say about this. Nobody, white, black, standing for the national anthem, sitting for the national anthem, kneeling for the national anthem, deserves a damn thing. If you think Colin Kaepernick deserves to be on an NFL team just because he's being courageous enough to speak out, then you're a fool. The NFL ain't like that. No one deserves anything. If you think Ray Rice deserves a second chance, you're a fool. If you think that Greg Hardy deserves to be on an NFL team to prove that he's a good person, you're a fool. That is not how the NFL works. No one deserves anything. It is a cutthroat business. It is a cutthroat industry with 32 of the most cutthroat people in America running it. You think these billionaire owners got anywhere by giving people stuff that they deserved? That's not how it works. At all. Whatsoever. I guarantee you this. If Tom Brady tomorrow was hit with a domestic violence charge, DUI charge, in the same night, he could be hit with all these charges. He's going to be on an NFL team. You want to know why? Because he's really, 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 really good. If Ryan Mallett gets hit with a DUI charge, you want to know what's going to happen to him? He's going to be cut. Is that fair? No, it's not fair. But it's the NFL. Colin Kaepernick is bringing baggage. He is bringing something. Is he being blackballed because he doesn't like America? No. Is his situation different than other backups because he is bringing extra attention? Yes. If this wasn't a kneeling during the national anthem situation, if this was a drunk driving situation, if this was anything, it doesn't have to be. What I'm trying to say is, it doesn't matter what his agenda is. It's just the fact that he has something going on. Anything else, any distraction. John Pierre-Paul, the New York Giants guy who blew his hand up. That's the situation. Now, that's not a distraction as much as a physical thing. But there was a lot of questions of who the hell wants this guy? What's this guy like? Why is he? Should we play this guy? He's got 3 fingers. He's got to wear this cast thing, and the Giants kind of gave him a tryout deal. Basically, said we'll let you play for a year, but my man, if you're hindered, you may deserve to be on the team. It was an accident, but if you're hindered at all, you're gone. And he wasn't. He proved to be relatively similar to how he's been. So no, to wrap this up, I don't think Colin Kaepernick is being blackballed in the NFL. I don't. I think that he's a good quarterback, or at one point was a good quarterback, who's now fallen onto hard times, and he's also bringing on this extra stuff that's not helping him. Anytime you have that extra baggage, it's not going to help you, whether you're Mike Vick, whether you're Plaxico Burress, whether you're Aqib Talib, whether you're Colin Kaepernick. If you're bringing an extra something and you're not that superstar level, it will hinder you. I think I would sign Kaepernick if I needed a quarterback, but if I didn't need a quarterback, if I was the Saints, I wouldn't touch him. Why would I? Why would I bring in a quarterback with a ton of distraction, and then shake up the whole locker room? That's my whole take on it. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you think he is being blackballed. And I'd be interested to see what changed between before he was kneeling, when he wasn't getting any trade suitors, and now. The Denver Broncos almost made a trade for him before this season. Remember when that whole deal was going on? And it fell through. He wasn't kneeling back then. It fell through. They just didn't like him. They didn't like him enough to make it happen. And that's all you really need to know about it. That's as basic of an answer as you can get, but it's the truth. So let me know on Twitter at JSKRMETTA what you think. Is he being blackballed, or is he just not good enough, or a little bit of both, which I think is pretty much what we believe here. That he's decent, but he's not the superstar where you bring in a guy with issues. And not to say that he's wrong. Issues, distractions, negative connotation words, it doesn't mean that I don't agree with what he's doing. I don't care. The protesting, all that stuff, I'm fine. I don't care. If I was in the NFL, if I was a GM, I wouldn't care. I'm trying to put the best product on the field. Now, if your protest, if your whatever causes a distraction in my locker room, causes an issue, causes a quarterback controversy, then all of a sudden it becomes different. So this isn't about Colin Kaepernick's agenda. It's just about the fact that he's got something else going on. Let's go to the next story. Let's go to the next thing here. We'll break it up a little bit. So Crayola, the crayons, 24 count box. You know the box. That's the go-to. That's the basic. That's the go-to crayon box. They are releasing, or they're eliminating one of the crayons. They haven't announced which one yet. And you know the box, the pencil sharpener in the back. You know the box, the crayon box. And they named all the colors. Let me see if I can pull up the colors so I can read the colors that could possibly 24 count crayon colors. Let's see if we can pull up the color list just so that we can read out one of these. One of these will get cut. Okay, here we go. The ones that could be cut: red, yellow, blue, brown, orange, green, violet, black, carnation pink, yellow, orange, blue, green, red, violet, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, violet, white, violet, red, dandelion, cerulean, apricot, scarlet, green, yellow, indigo, and gray. That's the 24 colors. If they don't eliminate white, then what the hell are they doing? Is there anything more useless than a white crayon? Have you ever used a white crayon? The only time you can use a white crayon is on white paper, like white paper. If you have a blue sheet of paper, the white's not going to work. So if you have a white piece of paper and you're coloring white, it's already white. Why would you color it white? You never need a white crayon. You never, ever, ever will need a white crayon. If you've used a white crayon, then you know what it does to the piece of paper. All it does is make it kind of shiny, kind of glossy. It looks like wax. If you had a wax pen or pencil, the thing that you do with Easter eggs, if you had a wax pencil and you scratched it on a piece of paper, then it'd be the exact same thing as using a white crayon. They have to eliminate white. This is a no-brainer to me. I don't know why they're eliminating a color anyways. Maybe one less color saves them $10 million, one of those crazy situations. But if it's not white, they are massively, massively screwing up. It has to be white. We're going to update the story as soon as we know the color, but I'm putting all my chips on white. All my chips on white to get eliminated. It makes no sense to eliminate another color. All the other colors are colors. All the other colors are needed in their own situation. Oh, I'm coloring dandelions? I need the dandelion color. Oh, I'm coloring something under the sea. I need some cerulean. Give me the cerulean. Oh, I need violet. Oh, I need gray. All cool. All actual colors. The white crayon, it doesn't show up. Yeah, white's a color, but if you have a white piece of paper, it's already there. It is pre-colored. All you have to do is color over the white. So get the white out of my face. Next story. Next one. Let's do the spider one quick. So Washington Post put out a story today. I'm sure you'll see it all over your Facebook feed and Twitter feed. That said that all the spiders in the world could feasibly eat all of the humans in the world in less than a year. And you're probably thinking, what that? Did David Arquette write this story? That's an 8-legged freaks joke. That is an 8-legged freaks reference. Find anyone else. Any other show, any other radio show, just walk the streets. Unless you run into David Arquette, you will not find someone that's prepared to make an 8-legged freaks joke or reference or whatever you want to call it. Now, the way that they came up with this was that the total biomass of all adults on the planet is about 287 million tons. If you add in children, about 70 more million tons, you still don't get even close to the amount of mass that spiders eat in a year. So, therefore, if all the spiders just ate humans and children, then they would still have room in their tum-tums for dessert. Which is a crazy thought and downright terrifying. But it goes back to my point that I mentioned a few weeks ago, when I was upset with Arian Foster for saying that he could kill a wolf with his bare hands. Do not be fooled. People, we don't have it made here. We don't have it made in the world. All these aliens, that's for a different show. All these animals are just waiting. They're just waiting to eliminate us. Great white sharks, spiders, scorpions, wolves, bears, whatever. They're all just waiting to destroy us. The fact that if these spiders just had like some propaganda, or they just had a leader who came out and said, look, man, I'm a little getting tired of getting hit with the newspaper. How about we do this? How about we just go from town to town and devour all of the humans? If spiders ever had that guy, if they had their leader, we'd be screwed. But we're sitting here like, just buy some Raid, buy some, some spray the spiders. You wouldn't be saying that when you got all these spiders coming after you. I understand. Do I think I'd be saved? No, I don't think the spiders would save me. But I hope that the spiders know that I respect their ability to destroy me. Much like all other animals. I am a vocal majority of team animals could destroy us at any given moment. So spiders are absolutely no different. I'm sure if you did the same study and was like, oh man, wow, there's only 29 Bengal tigers in the world, but if they all joined together, it would take 2 countries worth of an army to stop them. I wouldn't doubt that for a second. If you had a jungle full of tree frogs and you put 5,000 naked humans in the jungle, how are they going to kill the tree frogs? They're going to have to throw rocks and sticks at them or something? The tree frogs will eventually just destroy those people. You take away the technology and stuff, people ain't got nothing. Next story. Penultimate story. So in Kentucky, I got to bust out my notes for this. In Kentucky, a woman is allowed to sue the Kentucky State Police detective who she believes framed her after she has spent 6 years behind bars for a murder conviction. Her name is Susan Jean King. She went to trial in 2006 for the 1998 cold case of slaying in Kentucky. They found a guy dead in the river, and they didn't know what happened for a few years, from 1998 to 2006. This detective comes along, takes him 21 days from opening the cold case to convicting or from arresting this Susan Jean King. And he claimed that she shot him in the head, she drug his body to the bridge, threw this guy's body off of the bridge into the water. He floated down the stream. They find him. That's what happened. So she pleads guilty. She, sitting there facing 20 to life, pleads guilty for a reduced sentence of second-degree murder or second-degree manslaughter or murder. Second-degree... I didn't write... I don't know. I guess murder. She pleads guilty to a reduced sentence for a 10-year prison time. So that's what she pleads. Yes, I did it, but what it said in the article was that she maintained her innocence even though she pleaded guilty, which is impossible. So she pleads guilty, goes to jail, 6 years. In 2012, a serial murderer, not a great title to have. Business cards are hard to come by when you're a serial murderer. In May 2012, a serial murderer named Richard Jarrell confessed to the killing. So the Innocence Project opens this whole thing up. And they're like, hold the phone. Hold the phone. We got a serial murderer, says right here on his business card, said that he killed the guy. We got a girl, Susan Jean King, who pleaded guilty, maintained her innocence. We need to figure out what's going on. Now here's a little part that the detective didn't really introduce into the trial. I don't know who the hell her defense team was, but they ain't good, okay? Brendan Dassey over here thinks that she got a raw deal. So the little bit of information, remember, she is believed to have shot this man dead, dragged him out of her car down to the bridge, so dragged him down to the bridge, hoisted this man, and threw him off the bridge. She's got one leg. That's the piece of information that just kind of skated on through. She's a one-legged woman. How the hell is a one-legged woman supposed to drag some guy's body down to a bridge, hoist this guy up, throw him over the bridge? She's got one leg. She doesn't have a prosthetic. She's in a wheelchair. It took me 9 seconds to figure out that she couldn't have done this. And these idiots in Kentucky convicted her. And she's been sitting in jail for 6 years. The part that gets me when I hear about these stories, when I hear about these people pleading, even though they're innocent, if I was innocent, the only way I'm pleading is if you can guarantee me I'm not going to jail. That's it. If I'm facing a year in prison and my plea deal is like, you'll do house arrest instead, no jail time, I'm pleading to everything. Sure, JFK, that was me, brother. That's me. As long as I am 100% not doing jail time, I'm pleading every day of the week. But if I'm sitting there like the plea deal is for 10 years, lawyer up, son. Lawyer up. I'm not pleading down to 10 years. 10 years in jail is the same thing as 50 years in jail. Once you're in jail, time is over. There is no more time, especially 10 years. Oh, I'm only doing 10 years? Oh, no big deal. Nah, no thanks. I don't know if I would do 10 hours. 10 years? No, we're doing this court case. Someone call Nancy Grace because this is about to get ugly. Ugly. That's what gets me is how these people plead. She's sitting there knowing she didn't do this. And then she says, okay, I'll go to jail for 10 years for a murder I didn't do. Okay. Who does that? That's crazy that people do that. So, yeah, I mean, I think, if she didn't do it, she has one leg, she can't drag people around, then, yeah, she should be out of jail. But this is on her at some point. Of, lady, you're innocent. Why are you pleading guilty? You always hear these stories of people that get put into the clink, and then all of a sudden they just start confessing things that they didn't do. Have some will. Have some stone cold spine here. Last story of the day. So this was on WorldNet Daily. This was an article. And it started talking about how transgenders in women's sports, so people who are born men, switch to women, are now crushing women's sports. Crushing records, track and field, all this stuff. Just destroying all previous records, teams, softball, weightlifting, track, all that, mixed martial arts, all that stuff. And people are like, look, man, what the hell? We can't compete with this. Like, they're just going to break all of our records. They're going to, and I said months ago this was going to happen. If you got some down on his luck guy who's basically homeless, just sitting around not doing anything, you don't think that guy will switch it up and say, yeah, I'm a woman, and go do weightlifting or go run track? Track's a little different, but because you got to actually be fast. But just a normal guy is just going to be stronger than a woman. There's nothing against women. I honest to God believe, and this may sound ridiculous, but I honestly believe that my rec softball team, my rec 11-guy softball team, or I guess 10 for softball, my rec 10-man softball team could beat Team USA's, or we could definitely beat the slow pitch softball college champions, without a doubt. It's just how it works. Their fields are smaller. We would be hitting, okay? We would be hitting on like a 200-foot field. The fields that guys play are like 315 feet, 350 in the gap. You're talking about a field that's 200 feet? That's pop-ups or bombs. It's almost impossible to contain an adult softball team on a 200-foot fence. All of a sudden, it's just like, look, man, I'm having trouble keeping the ball in the park. There would be bombs galore. Normal pop-ups are bombs. You wouldn't even really have to try. Weightlifting? Yeah, you go grab me 10 random girls sitting in Target and 10 random dudes, more than likely that every one of those guys is going to be stronger than the girls. Just genetically. You get into like the Olympic situation where it's like, yes, she's an Olympic weightlifter, then yeah, you would need a guy who's pretty strong. But you wouldn't need a guy that's Olympic strong. You just need a guy that's pretty strong. And he's going to compete. So this was obviously going to happen. And the main reason I said back in the day was because of safety. It is not safe to have a guy, a male, a genetic male, boxing a genetic female. I don't care what they, what they believe they are or what they feel comfortable with. That's all fine. You can be transgender. I have no issue with a man saying that they feel like they're a woman. Fine, be a woman. I don't care. But don't go box women. And you're talking about, there are crazy people out there. And I guarantee you're going to start seeing a lot of people saying, if I was a UFC women's fighter and just demolishing these women, if I'm not good enough to be, if you have a guy, just walk with me. Let's say you have a guy who's making $5 an hour working at Subway. He wants to be a UFC fighter. He dreams of the big lights, the gold belts, the millions, the Conor McGregor lifestyle. But he's on that fringe. He's good. He wins lots of fights, but he's not good enough to be in the UFC. He's really, really good. Let's say the UFC is the top 100 fighters in the world. He's like in that 150 range. And he's down on his luck. And he switches and says that he's a female. Because he knows that he would just go 20-0, just start ripping through the female division, get championships, get titles, get pay-per-view fights. All of a sudden, he's the greatest women's fighter in history. He's getting millions of dollars. He's getting endorsement deals, all this stuff. You don't think guys out there will do that? I can promise you they will. And yeah, that sounds crazy, right? That sounds like, man, that's a really different situation. It only is because of the intent. It's not different at all physically. Just because the guy switched just to make money or just to make fame doesn't change the genetics, doesn't change the biology. So let's say that same guy now, exact same guy, actually is transgender and actually does feel that he's a woman. Then you can't stop him because now he's not even trying to mess up the system. Now he actually is transgender and he actually wants to fight. And now you're putting women in there. It's at serious risk, at serious danger. I mean, you're talking about blurring some lines. You're talking about really getting ugly fast. That would get ugly really fast. And that's in, boxing, mixed martial arts, all that stuff. You start putting, I'm telling you right now, they need to stop this. Personally, what I think they should do, transgender people can be transgender. That's totally fine. But they are not allowed to play sports or any of that stuff outside of the gender that they are biologically. It is the only way to do this. It is the only way. Otherwise, sadly, what's going to happen is genetic women, are no longer going to be in women's sports. That's the sad part. That's what's going to happen. I know it's hard to hear. I know it's tough, but it's just going to happen. You're going to have way too many people switching, way too many guys. The more that transgender, the more that this catches on, the more that this becomes popular, the more that you see this, it's just going to happen. I mean, I am all for people doing what makes them feel good. I'm all for, if you're homosexual, if you're transgender, please live your life, do whatever makes you feel good. But when it comes to like sports, athletics, physical situations, now we're not in the world of social. We're not in that world. We're in the world of biology and foundational, basic, just anatomy, physiology, and you can't fake that. You can't change that. It is what it is. Guys are just genetically stronger than women. So women will get phased out of women's sports. All these records, all these track and fields records, the swimming records, the softball teams, basketball teams, fighters, UFC, boxing, weightlifting, all that, women will be out. Women will be out of women's sports. So I think it's really important that we go ahead and put a kibosh on that. We go ahead and say, biologically, you have to compete, or you have to compete in whatever you are biologically. If you feel like you're a woman, fine. But you can't compete against women. You got to compete of what you were born. It's the only way to keep people safe. My main thing in this is keeping women safe. Because it's going to take 1 or 2 women to get put in a situation where they're getting bloodied up by a guy before the world's like, damn it, we really screwed the pooch on this one. That's it, guys. That is the show. You talk about, and it did go long. I apologize. It went long. We went 10 minutes long. But guys, when I'm feeling 12 out of 12, when I'm feeling like the best in the world, I'm just got to let it rip. And if you stay this long, then you understand. You're with me. You feel it. You felt it. You knew what you were on. You knew the roller coaster ride you were on. And you said, I'm riding along 40 minutes strong, baby. 40 minutes. We're 10 extra minutes. 10 extra minutes for the best in the world. Guys, thank you so, so much for sticking with me, for listening to this, for hitting play every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. You don't know what it means to me when I hear people talk about the show, when I hear people mention topics that I brought up or points that I brought up. It puts a smile on this old chunk of coal right here. So thanks, guys, again. You know what this was. For those that don't know, this was the Skrmetta Show.